Okay, today's date is September 2nd. The time is 6:40 p.m. Can you state your name and would you mind sharing some basic demographic info like race, ethnicity, age, gender?
Sure. My name is Scott Morfitt. I am male, 39, Norwegian as they come. So I guess that's white. um, that's me, and I try to be nice.
Okay. What are the primary things you do on a day-to-day? Like, what's your job? What do you do for fun?
Yeah, I just started a job in Somerset, Wisconsin, working at a company that sells comic book memorabilia, like toys and apparel and stuff. I ride bicycle, garden, cook, um, and listen to a ton of music for fun.
Okay. And where are you living right now, and what is it like to live there?
Right now, I'm temporarily living in St. Paul, Minnesota, because I just started a new job. So I'm living there weekdays. It's fine here.
Is there, have you noticed any big differences between like Eau Claire and St. Paul and the way people are responding?
Um, so I notice a lot less like people out and about in St. Paul than I've seen when I've been back in Eau Claire. It seems like as a whole, people are staying inside a little more. Might be because it's a bigger city. I don't know, but I have noticed that difference. I'm also spending time on the weekends in Amory, Wisconsin, and the biggest difference I see between Eau Claire and Amory is definitely mask awareness and people just kind of like taking things seriously.
Mhm. Um, so when you first learned about COVID-19, what were your thoughts about it? And have they changed in the time since?
Um, it's weird. So when I first learned about COVID-19, it was kind of like I think everyone was. It was sort of a story about something happening internationally, some disease that it was coming. But like I I just did not think at first it was something that was coming here. I thought it was just kind of contained in overseas, wherever it was happening. And I mean, I definitely take it much more seriously on the back end, as as we've seen the countless deaths and illnesses and the constant spikes in it everywhere.
What issues are you most concerned about right now with the pandemic?
You know, I don't want to say this, but I mean, I get really concerned about shit not opening up again. I mean, since I'm such a music fan and really have spent my life involved in either booking or promoting or running sound or something for like live music and art, I get really concerned that that whole community is going to face a real uphill battle and reinvention when it's time to come back, because a lot of the resources that were there, the physical spaces, the people to support, I mean, the people to support I think are still there, but like the resources and those things are gone. I mean, I definitely worry about people losing life, so I shouldn't say that like my biggest fear is there's never going to be a concert again, but like I do fear for the arts community and especially for working artists that we built systems over the past decades that are just not usable anymore for them to make money.
Sure. And how has COVID-19 affected your job?
Um, so here's a funny story that I don't mind having on the record. So I I planned to leave my job and put in a notice right before COVID was really a thing stateside, and had planned and worked through worked on hiring a couple replacements for myself and kind of picking those people out. And that was feeling fine, but at the same time I was interviewing with a couple companies in Madison and Milwaukee to take over large scale events for them, large scale concerts and stuff. And was basically in a, hey, let's do an interview and you're in type scenario. Just because I developed relationships with those people over the years. And kind of in the weeks right after I left my job, I found that there wasn't going to be those follow-up jobs. So, I mean, that's probably how it affected me most career-wise. But what's been fun is in the interim between finding my last job and current like full-time job, I was able to take up like grocery shopping for a living, like doing Shipt and Instacart, which was an amazing it was an amazing opportunity, an amazing timely thing that I was able to do that and able to find something that really paid the bills well while I was figuring out what the next steps were.
What concerns do you have about the effects on your employment in the future and the economy more broadly?
Right. Well, so it's interesting. My current job I'm in, again, it's like comic book collectibles. The place I'm working for is hiring because our orders are in an upswing. I think one of the weird things about being kind of a weird tertiary market is that we really serve a clientele who has been employed, who's worked at home, who's maybe got unemployment plus the kicker, but like their sales have steadily improved throughout this. The economy as a whole, I don't know. Like, I mean, I think that we're starting to see the real effects now that the unemployment kicker has diminished a bit, and we're starting to see how people are working through that. We had a really interesting spot where there was a number of jobs available, but and I don't fault anyone for this, but they paid less than people were making on unemployment. So it was like, why would they do those jobs? And now I think we're seeing what's happening afterwards. And I don't have a crystal ball on what's going to happen there at all.
How has it affected other people that you know and their employment status?
It has. So I have people that work in roles that are very dependent on the hospitality industry, such as like laundries, for instance. And I've seen a lot of them lose a major amount of their business with even down to weird things like cloth napkins not being used. So they're not run through the industrial like laundromats and stuff. I think that's only like one example. I think that there's all these downline economic effects, especially for people whose income is directly tied into events happening. I got to, I guess an anecdotal point is one of my friends' family who runs the Blue Ox Festival in Eau Claire. They've had to figure out a whole new model to survive through this, and how to do different events that appeal to different audiences. So I mean, I think a lot, like I've definitely in the people in my kind of my sphere, I haven't seen anyone become destitute or something, but I've definitely seen everyone have to scramble to kind of reposition their entire lives.
How has it affected you and your family in your day-to-day activities?
So that's one of the things why I was kind of interested in talking about this. It was really weird because we did a move through all of this, right? And I don't think other than the hassle of moving, like the countless trips to Menards to fix things, the trips across the state to move things, and then remodeling a new spot, I don't think that we through the first few months really got a second to breathe and look up. And so while we were doing things like taking precautions, wearing masks when we were in stores, washing our hands, knowing that that stuff was going on, it felt like I didn't really even know for a while, and slash felt a little guilty because well, I definitely knew other people were sheltering. It wasn't an option for me. And so I think that's kind of altered my whole feelings and approach in life on this. Like, I'm definitely taking precautions. Again, like I said, like every time I enter and leave a building, I make sure to sanitize my hands. I wear masks. I definitely distance, but I love distancing anyway. And so yeah, it's weird because I've kind of kept living my life more or less as it's gone along, with just some modifications, but that was all by necessity.
Mhm. Has the outbreak affected how you associate and communicate with other people, like friends and family?
At first I was definitely doing a lot more multi-friend Zoom things and maybe having like a beer with some friends via Zoom or something like that. Um, that seemed to be something we were doing a lot at the beginning, but that's kind of diminished. Um, as far as keeping in touch, I definitely call my mom a little more. She's 82 and she's sheltering right now. And so and she's calling all of the kids and grandkids to make sure that she's keeping in the loop. But I definitely feel a little more impetus to stay in touch with her, and I do call a few more friends than I think I was in the past. I definitely though I will say it's been weird because whether I was here or in Eau Claire, I still did deal with a massive estrangement from a community because I haven't seen my friends in the arts and music community where that was our one connection. I haven't seen them since. And we've kept up a little bit on Facebook and stuff, but I definitely lost a connection with a whole segment of the population that I was seeing at least weekly.
What have been some other challenges that you faced during the outbreak?
I don't know. It's so hard to say. I feel bad about that because I feel like a lot more people have faced a lot more hardships and challenges and stuff like that. It's definitely altered my entire life and career path. I guess I've been blessed to be in a position where I could find things to pivot to. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer for that.
Great. What have you, your family, and friends done for recreation during COVID-19? Now that you can't get out?
Lots of camping, lots of state parks, hiking, getting out on trails, stuff like that. I think, and I've noticed that that's been a huge boom for the state of Wisconsin and Michigan overall. There's a lot of people utilizing state and county parks right now, and so that's been a big part. For me, I love bicycling, and so it's been nice to have an excuse to put a few more 100 miles on than I have in the last couple recent years, anyway.
Sure. How has it affected your community? And I know you've already touched on the flip side of the music community, but just as a larger community.
Yeah, that's such my community. So it's hard to say because and I don't want to say the arts community is the only community I really interacted with. But it's not like I went to Chamber of Commerce events tons looking for my friends. So I guess this is gonna be an oral history now. Scott Morfitt hates the chamber events, but I don't work in Eau Claire anymore, so I'm fine with saying that. No, but like it is weird. Like, and I think like it's just it's been tough. I mean, I think everyone is seeing those people that they can't be with on a daily basis through that lens of social media, and I think a lot of people are still aligning and stuff. But it just, I don't know. It's so hard to say. Like, I feel and I mean, like, 'cause that even goes back to like moving away from Eau Claire didn't quite feel real because I never got to have a bunch of friends together at the joint and have a few beers. There was never that cathartic leaving, and there was never like a moment when anyone got to say goodbye. So it, it's so hard because with that estrangement again from friends in that community, I don't fully know even how I am, how I'm wrestling with that yet, or how I'm adjusting to it, because it was so foreign to never say goodbye. You know, in the art world, we always have the end of the night, at the end of the show, wrapping up, a few people talking at the door, and there was nothing like that. There was just, everything was just shut off.
How are people around you responding to the pandemic? I know it's been really divisive and people are kind of choosing sides. Um, have you noticed more of that?
Um, I've noticed a little bit of it through the pandemic, but a lot of my friends that were really passionately choosing sides of it have really pivoted to social justice, post like George Floyd et al. Like, and like have really gotten into the Black Lives Matter cause, which I mean, I think I think that that's amazing, and I think that that is the right thing to do right now. Um, but I think that really altered. I think that really altered people's focus on this pandemic because there was this issue of long-running systemic oppression that it didn't supersede the pandemic, but it definitely made it kind of an issue that's going on while this is going on. And so I think a lot of my friends, yeah, just reacted to that and went out and mobilized.
Now that you're in St. Paul, are you seeing any of that?
Um, Not a ton in St. Paul. Definitely when I go into Minneapolis, and have driven around a bunch. I'm seeing, you know, when you can't go on Lake Street without seeing either the remnants of buildings or beautiful murals, dedicated to social justice and change.
How has COVID-19 changed your relationships with friends, family, and the community?
Um, well, it's definitely made communication a lot more intentional. Like, versus like I think in the past, like I would just sort of like, if I didn't have plans with people, sort of like bump into them when I'm out and about. But it's made it so like when I'm like, oh, I need to connect with X person, and they're not like whatever I'm telling them, I'm more apt to shoot an email, text, whatever. Even if it was something that I previously would just like, oh, I'll wait till I see them to make a joke about this or whatever. And so it's definitely made me more proactive on digital communication with friends and family and stuff.
Have you or anybody you know gotten sick during the COVID-19 outbreak, and what have your experiences been in responding to the sickness?
So I might have had it in February towards the end. I'm not quite sure though, because the VA wouldn't test me. But I was really laid up for about 8 days with something that I'd never experienced before, where I had breathing problems, frankly, standing up and walking around, weakness, shortness of breath. Um, a loose stool like I've never had before. I don't want to TMI this public history thing, but and it was weird because it was a weird time when I was home by myself for a week and able to just roll with it. But it was pretty bad, and it felt not great all around. It was like nothing I've ever had. It wasn't like, it definitely wasn't something that I could like close my eyes and make it go away for a few hours.
Were you in Eau Claire during that time?
Yeah.
That's something that I've heard from a lot of people, that they feel like they might have had it around that time. So
I guess there was also another flu variant going on, but man, I mean, I've never had a flu like that.
Yeah. Have you? What have been your primary sources of news and information during this time?
Google News for kind of everything, and then I am a slave to the nightly shows like Daily Show, and I like Colbert a lot, like just to get kind of the overarching headlines. But then to read deeper, I follow a few different sources on Google News. I'll follow New York Times, NBC, Washington Post, and those. I think one thing that's changed with my news consumption during this is I really shut off all local, and it wasn't even just because of moving, but it was just for my own sanity. I stopped following all local, like Eau Claire news on social media, just so I wouldn't see their comment pages at all or see what they were posting, because that felt really divisive and felt no longer like news. It was just like, oh, here's an argument about something controversial WQOW is putting on or something. So I've kind of like, I used to get a bit more news probably through social media, but I've really stopped following that and tried to use it more for like pictures of hiking and food if possible.
Yeah, I get that. What do you think are some important issues that the news might be covering or might be failing to cover right now?
I mean, I think it's the news's job to cover specifically how industries are changing and how people are reacting, and really to showcase where opportunities are for people whose jobs are displaced due to this. I think that is the most important news at this point, how we're all going to move forward. Obviously, I also think people do need to be aware of the social justice issues and everything. But I mean, and I don't know if the news does a perfect job of covering this at all, but I've definitely been heartened that at least it seems like they're navigating through it with some modicum of poise.
Has your experience transformed how you think about family, friends, and community?
I don't know. I mean, I think that definitely community, because like, again, I hate to keep going back to the art thing, but I realized that a lot of my community was predicated on events happening all the time. And I mean, I think but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that part of intentional community until this time has been about getting together, whether you're interested in organic foods and go to a community garden to work, or if you're into hunting and go to the boat show or something. I guess that'd be fishing or lake things. I think that there is so much that we build around being with one another and forming those communal bonds that has been a pivot. I think that for me, family has become a little bit more important, and definitely I'm communicating a lot more with family. and prioritizing that.
And knowing what you know now, do you think that individuals, communities, or governments need to keep stuff in mind for the future or start planning better?
Yeah, oh yeah, hell yeah. I think that we need to figure out what for 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 global and national emergencies like this. I think that we need to figure out whose orders supersede whose and have an overarching plan that still is individualized to states. I think that the fact that there was no clear federal guidance has made any response pretty much horseshit, because like even if you're locking up Illinois, for instance, people from Illinois are like, oh, Wisconsin Dells is open, so I'm definitely going there. Likewise, people from Minnesota or whatever. And that's just one town, right? But like, I don't think that we've had a good response, like a good overarching response, obviously. And I think that that needs to be done for something like this that doesn't know borders, that doesn't know that Wisconsin stops at the St. Croix River or whatever, you know what I mean?
How do you think local community leaders have dealt with the pandemic?
I think that there's very earnest local leaders, but to be honest, I mean, besides like the ones issuing caution on both sides of the aisle, this isn't a left-right thing. I don't think that many of them have known what to do, literally, because like, how would they? What in our tackle box says, oh, here's how we're going to deal with a global pandemic on the local level? I think that things have been so piecemeal that some communities have way overblown their response and some have underblown their response. And I think that like, well, some people can be accused of grandstanding no matter what their political affiliation is. I think people have been earnest in their responses, but it's just kind of reflected whatever their beliefs were prior and what they had in their tackle box to respond to something weird like this.
Sure. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to touch on?
I think one of the things that a lot of people miss in their vitriol with all of this, and it's something that like I've been talking with people a lot over this, is for the kind of things I do for major events and stuff like that, it isn't the government that's shutting this down, and it isn't the government that will start it back up. It's definitely insurance companies at the key that will bring things back. And I think that that part has gotten lost in this, and people keep thinking like, oh, it's the government shutting things down, or it's the government opening things up. I mean, sure, on some levels there are things that the government has done that like both ways, but I don't think people know how much that like private industry is controlling this more so than any overarching mandates.
Sure.
But that's about it for other stuff. Other than that, this has been a really good in-depth convo.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you coming on today here. I'm going to end the recording, and then I will give you a little more information about how to access this if you want to check it out later.
Sweet.
Okay, thanks.